Hello, folks. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, November 20th. My name is David Chulin, Director of Client Success here at Chaikin Analytics, wanting to welcome you to this Chaikin Analytics onboard session. Thank you so much for becoming members. Thank you for becoming part of the Chaikin Analytics family. We are very happy to have you with us, and we certainly want you to find success. And this onboard is your first step to that success. This is your foundational training, our primary training. Today, we're going to teach you to use Chaikin Analytics, to navigate the website, of course, but most importantly, to really read our data and recognize what a strong stock, a weak stock, and a stock you just should likely walk away from all look like. So you can see the outline on the far right side of the screen of what we are going to cover today. We're going to cover a lot over these next 90 minutes, and you will really be set up for success with our platform when this is all completed. What are we going to start with today, folks? Well, we're going to begin with the very first thing you need to be doing with Chaikin Analytics. What is that first step? How do we do it? Why do we do it? What are the benefits? As we move our way through the platform discussing it today, you will notice that this is a very useful and valuable tool for long-term investing, for intermediate-term investing or trading, short-term trading, swing trading, and options trading alike. A quick word, though, regarding options. This is a foundational session for everyone, and many of our members are not options traders, though many of you are. We will, by design, not cover options on this session. We do cover options on other sessions. And of course, options are a tool that help you trade a stock or ETF or what have you in a certain way. So even if you are an options trader, all of this foundational stuff we're going to talk about over these next 90 minutes are necessary for you and valuable for you as well. Please hang on with me here today. I promise this is useful and necessary to your success with Chaikin Analytics. So this is for everyone. Please stick with me. At the end of our session today, don't drop off. I'm going to tell you about other content, other ways you can engage with us, next steps, new ways to learn, further ways to learn. Some of that content, by the way, is specifically options oriented. Three final points before we dive right in. Number one, please ask me questions. The Q&A button that is at the bottom of your Zoom window is how you interact with me. So click Q&A and send your questions over. I promise I will get to them. Number two, if you have your two monitors or maybe two computers or just a very large monitor, if you can, I encourage you to follow along with me in your own Chaikin Analytics window. It's just kind of the way the human brain works, right? Most of us learn by doing things ourselves. So if you can do as I do, I think it will help have as much as possible sink into your brain. And my last point before we begin. We're going to cover a lot today, folks. 90 minutes is a long time. This platform can do a lot, and it will take you a little bit of time to get comfortable with it and truly learn it. So this session that we are recording right now, that we are doing right now, is recorded. All of our member sessions are recorded and available for you to watch a second time, a third time, a fourth time at your convenience. I will show you when we get to other resources at the end of our session here today where you can find this recording that, if all goes right with processing, will be up before the end of business here today. And I cannot encourage you enough to spend more time with this training. This is your foundation. The next steps, the other content, that'll still be there, as will our team. So again, thank you so much for becoming members. We're happy to have you with us. My name is David Chulin. Let's dive right into Chaikin Analytics. So what is the first thing we're going to do together today? Well, it's the very first thing you should be doing, and that is to get your stocks into the Chaikin Analytics platform. How else could we analyze them? Could we keep track of them, right? So how do we do this? Well, the first way we do it is we need to click the three horizontal lines in the top left corner of our screen here, because when we do, it opens up our list panel, and we can see a number of different lists I've already created. I've been using Chaikin Analytics for a little while, as you might expect. If you're just getting started today, the only thing you're going to see here is my stocks. And certainly we can fill the my stocks list with our stocks, but I'd like to show you how to create our own list from scratch right now today. And this might seem obvious, but we're going to click New List to do that. When we click New List, a white box with a cursor appears, and now we can type in whatever we want to call our list. This part's really important, folks. To create your list, you must hit Enter or Return on your keyboard. Again, if you click somewhere else, your list will not create. To create your list after typing in the name, you must hit Enter or Return. That is how it creates. There's no limit to the number of lists you can create in Chaikin Analytics. There's no limit to the number of stocks you can place in any one list in Chaikin Analytics. So certainly you can start with one list. Just get all your stocks into one master list. These are my stocks. Or maybe you want to organize in different ways, different lists for different accounts, different lists for different trade styles, for example. Maybe you're a financial advisor and you want to create different lists for your different model portfolios or prospect or client accounts. Certainly the possibilities here are endless. But make sure we create a list and we want to get our stocks into at least that one list. So how do we do it? Well, now that we've created the list, we can see it is here in our list panel. It's now highlighted in blue because it is the list we have in view. And that means we see it right here in the white. And it also says to add symbols to your list, type in the box above. Well, that box above is up here in the top left corner where it says symbol or name. So I'm going to type in a ticker. I'll click up there and type in a ticker. MSFT, you've heard of Microsoft before, right? If I want to add Microsoft to my list, all I do now is left click on the black plus right here, the add button. That's it. Just added it to my example list. What if I don't know a ticker? No worries. I could type in a company name, Southwest. Got it. Didn't realize their ticker was LUV. That's adorable. If I want to add that to my list, I'm just going to click this black plus right here. Actually, not the stock I wanted to add. That is my bad. I apologize. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to add something else. I apologize here. Okay. Yep. Let me go back to my example list. Let's add G dot to my list. Cool. I'm going to add an ETF. What if I want to add KCE, the capital markets ETF? No problem. I can add an ETF. You can see how easy it is to add a stock or ETF to your list. You type in a ticker, you click the black plus. What if I didn't want to add it to my list? I just wanted to view the chart for ARR here. Well, I could just click in the blue or click the little chart icon, or I could hit enter on my keyboard. Any of those things would bring up the stock in our chart without adding it to our list. However, guess what? I want to add it to my list. MRO, let's do 2 more. All right, BLDR is our last one. You can see how quick this is. It only takes a few seconds to add a stock to your list. We've just created a list of 9 stocks and ETFs in 30 seconds or so. It's very simple to get your stocks into Chaikin Analytics. Please make sure we are doing that. It's very easy to manage the stocks in our list as well. Do we see what happens when we hover our mouse here over top of any of the stocks or ETFs in our list? Do we see the X that is appearing right here? Maybe I wanted to delete Microsoft from my list. Who knows why? But I want to remove it from my list. All I need to do, just click on the X right there, and it goes away. It is that simple. It's easy to manage the lists themselves as well. When I hover my mouse over the list, you see the 2 icons that are appearing next to the name. This pencil icon lets me rename my list or make it my default list, so it'll be the first one listed here and load first when I log into Chaikin Analytics. Or I can delete my entire list if I am done with it by clicking this X. Are you sure you want to delete this list? It'll ask, and click continue. It'll delete. I'm going to hit cancel since, of course, we're still working with our list. We just created it. All right, so we see how simple it is to create lists, get our stocks into Chaikin Analytics, folks, right? But what if you have a very large number of stocks somewhere else? Maybe it's 80 stocks at a different website, perhaps your broker. Could you type in 80 individual tickers and hit the plus? You bet you could. Probably would take you less than 10 minutes, but those would be very tedious 10 minutes. And I can assure you, I don't want to spend 10 minutes doing that either. Well, that's okay. You can import a list from an outside source right into Chaikin Analytics in only a few clicks. Every website nowadays has the ability to export data. So you want to export your list of tickers from your other site. As an example, here in Chaikin Analytics, if you right click on the list that you have highlighted in blue, you can see a little export list button that appears right here. And that's how you can export the tickers from any of your lists in Chaikin Analytics. But you'll want to do that from whatever website your list is on. And once you have that Excel or CSV file on your computer, I would recommend that you open it and delete anything that is not a ticker. I mean anything. All we want is one column of tickers. Get rid of headers, get rid of performance information, company names, everything gone, just tickers. And then save that to your computer because it's the tickers we're looking to import, right? Once it is saved to your computer, you want to come up to the top right corner of your screen here to the gear icon. This is a little hidden. I apologize. And you'll see import list. It's right here. Click import list. From the top, you'll see the opportunity to select a file. On a Mac, it says browse. I think it maybe says select file on a PC. You'll click right there and you will find that file that you have saved to your computer. I have one called import test. I can't imagine why I have that. And you select that file. We can see it now immediately fills in the list name with the name of my file, but you can edit it. You could call it, whatever you want, right? It's totally up to you. And then you click next. If you've made it so that your Excel file is just one column of tickers starting in the top left corner of A1, we have nothing else to do on this screen except hit import. It'll only take a few seconds. 80, 70, 90 stocks, 8 stocks, 10 stocks, whatever it is, and you see your list is now created. Hit close. I'm going to close out of this. Give it a second to process. There you go. You can see now under user list, import today that we just imported together is now here inside Chaikin Analytics. Folks, it is easy to create your lists with your stocks. Get them into this platform ASAP. Whether or not you're doing it manually or by importing, make sure you get your stocks into the platform. This way, it's possible, easy to keep track of them. All right, let's talk about the list itself a little bit. First thing I want you to notice, our stocks and ETFs are in order of the power gauge rating. The power gauge rating is the most important part of Chaikin Analytics, and we're going to talk about it in detail in a few moments. But right up front, I do want you to notice that, yeah, we're in order of the power gauge rating. Our very bullish stocks or ETFs are at the top, followed by bullish, then neutral, bearish, and very bearish, then down at the bottom. You can see that ETFs are mixed right in. We're not separating out KCE here from our stocks. It mixes right in. If you didn't know KCE was an ETF, well, you would by looking right at the rating here. You can see it says ETF right in it, making sure you're aware. If you do have 2 or more stocks and ETFs with the same power gauge rating, as you can see, we have 4 bullish rated ones right here. They are alphabetized. AN comes before AR, comes before K, comes before T. That's it. There's no value judgment here between these 4. They are in alphabetical order within their group. However, we do notice that BLDR is listed first, and obviously BLDR alphabetically comes after AN, ARR, right? But it is a very bullish rated stock, and there is a value judgment there. Very bullish stocks will always come before bullish ones. This power gauge rating, which again we'll talk about in a second or two, helps us to understand whether or not a stock is likely to outperform or underperform the market over the next number of months. Most important part here of Chaikin Analytics. All right. Within the list itself, we also see price. We can see price info for TDY right here. We can see price info, by the way, for TDY at the top of the chart right here. You can see price information for the ETFs that mirror or proxy for the 3 major indices, the S&P 500, Dow Jones, and the NASDAQ. And we also have an intraday price bar right over here. This intraday price bar does change color. It is red today because TDY is down today. If TDY was up today, this intraday bar would be green. All of our previous days' price bars do stay green at all times. Now, all of this price info I've highlighted before you updates once every 80 seconds. The quotes aren't delayed. They just don't hit every tick. They tick off every 80 seconds. Everything else you see in the Chaikin Analytics platform, for example, relative strength, Chaikin money flow, the power gauge rating, for a stock. All updates once per day overnight. We crunch a lot of data from a number of different sources to create what you see before you, and the process takes a little bit of time after the market closes. Everything updates over the course of the night to be done by early in the morning before the market opens, with one final caveat. We calculate ETF power gauge ratings once a week on Sundays. So again, price every 80 seconds, everything else once per day, except the ETF power gauge rating once a week. At the top of our list, it's the first place you start to really see value out of the list itself. It's this tricolored display. I think it looks like a big pill, right? It's called our power bar. The power bar allows us in only a glance to understand the health of any list in Chaikin Analytics. How does it do it? Well, it shows us the number of bullish, neutral, and bearish rated stocks or ETFs inside that list. Now, remember, this is a forward-thinking rating. So when we see a portfolio, a list that has significantly more bulls than it has bears, we can glean that this group is likely to outperform in the months ahead. And of course, vice versa. Now, you may be saying, look, you're pushing this thing hard. We've got an 8 equity list right here. I can pretty easily glance at it, see that it's mostly bulls, a couple bears, 1 neutral. Okay, fine. You're right. You're right. That's a good point. What if you had done an import and brought 80 different stocks into Chaikin Analytics? It would be very tedious to go through and look at each power gauge rating and notate, et cetera, right? This is where the power bar is going to be helpful. It's a very quick guide that helps us understand that health of that list. Remember, it is forward thinking, our power gauge rating. At the top of the list, also, we do have the ability to sort. By clicking here, you can sort this list in a different way. Again, the default way, for a reason, is our power gauge rating. But again, you see it right here, right? All right. Now that we know how to create a list, we know how to get our stocks into it, we know how to basically read through most of the list, I would like to spend the crux of our time now together, the next while, really talking about all of the data that we look at here about a stock we're looking at. How do we analyze this? What are we looking for? What does our information say? And to do that, I first want to ask you to click right here. When you hover your mouse over the box right here for the power gauge rating, you notice it turns blue and it says expand. And if you click there, you can see that our power gauge panel has now expanded. We can now see significantly more information about our stock, in this case, BLDR. Let's dive in. What's the first thing we want to notice about this stock? Well, of course, it's the power gauge rating, folks. We talked about it, the most important part of Chaikin Analytics, right? This is a forward-thinking rating. So real quick, glance at the chart for BLDR for me. Can we all agree that in the last 11 months, BLDR has gone from a $10 stock to a $25+ stock, and a 150% return in 11 months is pretty good? We'd all like all our stocks to go up 150% in 11 months, wouldn't we? You don't need Chaikin Analytics, and you don't need me for sure to glance at a chart and say, wow, that stock has performed well in the past. We can easily see that by glancing at this chart. That's not what this power gauge rating is about. This rating doesn't say BLDR has performed well. It says that regardless of what this has done, our data says that BLDR will outperform the market in the next 1 to 6 months. That is what this means. Forward thinking. We can see our ticker right here and our company name right here and price info, as we mentioned before, right here. If you don't know who BLDR is, that's okay. Click a little eye icon right here and it'll give you a paragraph about who they are. And the truth is, I think that's one of the big benefits of Chaikin Analytics, having so much data, so much analysis in one place and tools to help you find ideas that you may find stocks, companies you've never heard of that you can have the confidence in investing or trading in right now. And this little eye will tell you a little bit about them. This plus here is a shortcut to adding BLDR to any of your user lists. So you don't need to click on the list and type up here. If you're already looking at a chart and you decided you wanted to add this to your My Stocks list, you could do it right from this plus. This magnifying glass is a powerful little search tool. When you click it, you will see every list in Chaikin Analytics that BLDR is included in. Any user list, any industry group, any index, any ETF, or any hot list. We'll talk about all of them later. This looks like a little yellow sticky note because it is in fact a little yellow sticky note. If you click this icon, a sticky note will appear, and now you can type a note that saves in Chaikin Analytics attached to this stock. Every stock has one note, folks, one single note. So if you have BLDR in 7 lists, they all will still share the same note. This is our industry group. BLDR is part of building products, and this is clickable. If you click building products, all the building product stocks will show up in the list right here for you to run through. We do kind of give a binary indicator on our industry groups, which you do see. I'm going to skip over here to the far right side of our screen. BLDR is listed as a strong industry. This indicator can only say strong or weak. It is binary. How do we determine if an industry group is strong or weak? Well, we look at all the stocks inside the building products group, and we look at the power bar for them. Is there more bulls to less bears? Then it is a strong industry group. Is it more bears to less bulls? Then the industry group listed here would be weak. You may want to take a deeper dive into the industry group. However, we do have this quick binary indicator because industry strength is part of the process we would always recommend here at Chaikin Analytics for stock selection. A rising tide lifts all boats. And by owning strong stocks that are also in strong groups, we give ourselves a higher probability of success for our trades. What happened yesterday? Kohl's reported earnings and gapped down, right? A number of different retail companies also moved down. Kohl's didn't report anything bad, but look, this happens all the time. We know how it works within a group. So you want to make sure you don't have headwinds from your competitors and other similar companies. You want tailwinds helping push you along. Rising tide lifts all boats. This button here opens our options play widget. We're not going to talk about this on this session in any detail. Remember, we use Chaikin Analytics here to help us understand what we expect a stock to do, the direction it'll move, the timing, etc. Options play is a mathematical tool that helps us put together the right options strategy or figure out if one even makes sense. What does it do? Well, it allows us to look at any type of option strategy we can even imagine. Of course, calls and puts, different types of spreads, verticals, calendars, ratios. You can do condors, butterflies, straddles, strangles, whatever here in Options Player. You can make stuff up yourself. You can control each individual leg, expiration date, strike price. It helps you understand probability of profit, break-even points, what the spread looks like. It's all part of Options Play. And this math tool will help you figure out, like, look, does this call make sense? Does this spread make sense? Is it too expensive? Am I paying too much premium? Am I not getting enough income? Is my risk too high? That's what this is all about. We don't use this to tell us the direction a stock is likely to go. We do that here in Chaikin Analytics. And once we like a stock, we use Options Play to help us put that together. We do cover Options Play in detail in our options related sessions. If we have upcoming earnings info, you'll see it right here. Hovering your mouse over EPS will show more information as well. We have had a hiccup or two in the last week as we switched to earnings data right from S&P in the processing of that. So we obviously just reported earnings here in the last 2 weeks for BLDR, but shortly we'll show their estimated next earnings report as well. We'll get to the checklist here in a little bit. I do want to show you that we have important numerical information available for you here. If there is a yield, we see PE, we see market cap. If you click this play button here, you can scroll through and see other important info like 52-week high and low, ex-div date, price to sales, beta, and some other important ratios. Real quick on our chart, you can look at a little one-day chart right here. You can switch between a 1- and 5-year view. You can put a crosshair on our chart that you can move with your keyboard. We can see previous earnings reporting dates on our chart, and you can turn that off by clicking here. Not sure why you'd care to do so, but you can. This button here downloads this chart and subsequent data to a white background PDF. So that can be saved to your computer, and given it has a white background, if you want, you can also print it. Some of you I know like to print things. We do see the ability to turn historical buy and sell signals on and off on our chart right here as well. We'll talk about buy and sell signals later on in this session. Not a huge part of our process, not always a part of our process, but could be a nice little cherry on top or a way to find some interesting stocks. But what is this right here in the middle, folks? This is the nitty-gritty of where our power gauge rating comes from. What is the power gauge rating? Well, it is a 4-category, 20-factor model back-tested to 1999 in 1, 3, and 6-month intervals that combines both fundamental and technical analysis, but skews heavily to the fundamental side, folks. It is primarily a fundamental model, looking at the kind of under the hood of a company. This 20-factor model, when all put together, helps us to understand whether or not a stock, of course, is likely to outperform or underperform the stock market in the next 1 to 6 months. Our very bullish stocks outperform our bulls, which outperform our neutrals, which outperform our bears, which outperform our very bearish stocks. So how did Mark create this? Well, he took 200 factors that could affect forward stock performance, and he narrowed it down to the 20 most important. Created an individual calculation to appropriately, measure each of these 20. And we run those 20 calculations on every stock that primarily trades on a major US exchange after the market closes every single night. Yes, that is some roughly 4,500 stocks times 20 calculations. We take the raw results and then we compare stocks to each other. We then take those results and then we apply a proprietary weighting formula. Each of the 20 factors is weighted differently. As I mentioned, it skews heavily to the fundamental side. We combine all 20 of those weighted and ranked and compared factors together to then create the forward-thinking power gauge rating. Focus on bulls and very bulls for your bullish trades. Focus on bears and very bears for your bearish trades. I know that seems obvious. I want to repeat it again. We encourage you to focus on very bullish and bullish stocks for bullish trades and bearish and very bearish stocks for bearish trades, and never the opposite. Never the opposite, right? There will be plenty of neutrals as well, folks. Neutral just means that the data is not clear. It's not clearly telling us outperformance or underperformance. It's mixed. That's okay. That's how quantitative analysis works. There has to be some neutrals. If you find a neutral you really like, I encourage you to try to find a similar bull first and foremost. If one way to do that might be with our discovery engine, by the way. This is a stock seeding tool. Type in a ticker, hit enter, and it will show you similar stocks to the one you typed in. Maybe that's a good way to find a similar one. If you can't find a similar stock that's bullish, can you ever trade a neutral? Sure. Not the primary focus we should be having. Again, focus on bulls and bears respectively. But there is other information beyond the power gauge rating that we use for every trade, even ones that have bullish or very bullish ratings. And that becomes even more important when you're looking at a neutral stock. But this other information that we'll talk about in a second is always important. We want to take a weight of the evidence approach here at Chaikin Analytics, always looking at multiple pieces of data and seeing if they can all line up. We'll talk about that in a second. But again, focus on bulls for bulls and bears for bears. Anyone with any questions about any of this, always remember to click Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom window and send it right over to me. Now, we can see right here in the middle the 4 categories that make up the power gauge rating and what those rankings are here for BLDR. And these are rated on the same 5-point scale as the power gauge rating itself is. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that we see very bearish, bearish, neutral, bullish, and very bullish, right? We see the 5 steps that it makes. This isn't high or low. This isn't big or small. This is to the far left. Is it very bearish for the stock? Or to the far right, is it very bullish for the stock? Is it likely to have us outperform or underperform, right? Right? So why is BLDR very bullish? Well, because financials, earnings, and technicals are very bullish, and experts, sometimes we refer to it as sentiment, is neutral. You may say, well, why are experts sentiment here neutral? Well, just click the plus right next to experts here, and you can now see the 5 factors that make up the experts category. Remember, 4 categories, 5 factors each, 20 overall factors. So what's up with experts? Well, estimate trend and industry relative strength are very bullish. Short interest is neutral. Insider activity and analyst rating trend are very bearish. We put all that together, we get a neutral rating for experts. The truth is, folks, is I do not encourage you to be diving into these individual factors and categories because the power gauge rating is already doing it. It's not necessary. The information is here if you find certain things to be more important and you want to look into it or something like that, right? But that is not necessary. I don't look at these. I want to tell you that right now. The power gauge rating is already doing it. If I'm looking at these again, I am double counting it. But of course, listen, we all come from different places. If you very much care about short interest, if you very much care about, price to sales, by all means, you're welcome to look at this information. Certainly, if you're going to trade earnings with all the risks that go along with that, looking at the earnings factor here and what's going on underneath it, I think would be very important, very positive for BLDR. Lee, I don't know if that is kind of what your question is. Analysis of pre-earnings announcements. I'm not sure beyond that what you might mean. But again, that is, everything's incorporated here in the power gauge rating. Do we see where this rating comes from? Do we see how we want to focus on the bulls and variables, et cetera, and how it works? Does anyone have any questions about that? Quantitative model, multiple factors to tell us if a stock is likely to outperform or underperform in the months ahead. Real quick, let's talk about the ETF power gauge rating. It's different. We have power gauge ratings currently for roughly 400 plus ETFs. They are all US stock-based ETFs, full of US stocks. Well, we already have a stock model, don't we? So if we have a model that rates the individual stocks and these ETFs are made up of individual stocks, yeah, of course, we are using the stock model in that. The ETF rating comes from 3 places. It comes from the weighted and unweighted power gauge ratings of the stocks inside the ETF. And we also have a momentum-based technical ranking of all ETFs, looking at the long-term and intermediate-term technical rank compared to other ETFs, and we combine all this together to give us our forward-thinking ETF rating. While the stock rating is versus the stock market, the ETF rating is versus the entire universe of ETFs. So if you're looking at an ETF that is bullish rated, it means that that ETF is likely to outperform all ETFs over the next 3 to 6 months, even the ones we don't have ratings on right now, fixed income, global, et cetera, et cetera. These ratings are forward thinking, and we certainly want to focus on bulls for bulls and bears for bears. Now, we know that BLDR is a very bullish rated stock, right? Does that mean because this is very bullish rated, that's it, we're done, we found a very bullish stock the model likes, we go buy it? It does not. Never do we act on just the power gauge rating alone. We have these charts here for a reason, folks. There is significantly more information that we need to take into account. Stocks that are fundamentally sound, companies that are strong under the hood over a long time frame, they outperform, folks, right? Fundamentals drive stock prices, drive markets, et cetera. That's not always true in the short term. We have to pay attention to the technicals, right? We have to look at the technical situation and make sure that the market agrees with the model. Won't always. It does most of the time. And when we combine this information together, we give ourselves a serious leg up. And that's what this is all about. We don't have a crystal ball. I'm not going to pretend like we do. We don't. What do we have, folks? We have data. We have a lot of it. And we have an easy way to incorporate all of that data into one decision very quickly in one place. So we need to read these charts on BLDR or any other stock we are interested in to see if the market and the technical situation agrees with the model. We've made it easy for you to do it with our pre-trade checklist right here. See it? Checklist. Where my mouse is. It opens this up. We only added this maybe 6 months ago. This checklist is our guide to analyzing our chart. Now, we still want to analyze the chart ourselves, but as you're getting comfortable and used to analyzing the chart, the checklist will take you through it. I can tell you, I've been here for a number of years, been using Chaikin Analytics for a long time. I don't open the checklist because I don't need to, because it only takes me 3 seconds to look at one of these charts and know whether or not I'm interested in a stock. That's not realistic for you. You just started. It's going to take time. So the checklist is going to make this easier for you. Eventually, you'll get there. You won't even open it. Or maybe you'll do it for a while just to make sure you're reading it right. Great. Let's talk about the checklist and all the details on the charts that it takes us through. What is the first item on the chart? You better believe it's the power gauge rating. Here on the checklist, it's going to tell us whether or not this is a bullish, neutral, or bearish stock today. And certainly that's the most important. But we read our charts a little different. We're a little weird here at Chaikin Analytics. We read from the bottom up. And at the very bottom, we can see what the power gauge rating has been going back the whole last year, right? And yes, I absolutely care about what the power gauge rating is today, but I very much care about what the power gauge rating has been. How consistent has the data been that says that this is a bullish stock? What kind of duration do I see on this bullish rating? So I'm going to look back at the history of this. When it's green, it was bullish. When it's yellow, it was neutral. And when it's red, which BLDR never has been in the last year, it was a bearish rated stock. So I'm looking for a stock that's bullish today, you bet. I'm also looking for a stock that's hopefully been bullish for at least a month or two. I'm looking for some consistent data saying, hey, this thing's been bullish. Our data says it's bullish. We feel good about it. And we felt confident about it data-wise for a little while. BLDR has been bullish since March. It's been, other than like a week or two, been bullish since January. Feel great about that. If you have a stock that's going back and forth, it's bullish a lot, and every once in a while it's neutral over a period of time, okay, I can feel pretty good about that, right? A stock that was bearish 2 weeks ago, I'm not going to feel nearly as good about as I am a stock that's been bullish consistently for 3 months. So we care about, of course, the duration, the consistency here of the power gauge rating, at least over the last couple months. What's next? I'm going to look at relative strength versus the SPY. This tells us how our stock is performing in comparison to the S&P 500. Power gauge rating is about outperformance and underperformance, right? We're looking for alpha. If we just were trying to perform as well as the market, we'd buy the SPY and we'd call it a day, sit on our hands, don't have to worry about it. We're trying to outperform. So this indicator is very important. When it's orange, red, it's underperforming the market. And when it's green, the stock has been outperforming the market like a good bullish stock should. Folks, we want a stock that is already outperforming the market. We are only interested in stocks that have been outperforming the market for at least a month or two. Positive relative strength, green relative strength for the last month or two at least. Stocks that are outperforming tend to continue to outperform. Stocks that are underperforming tend to continue to underperform. Momentum is real. Trends tend to persist. That doesn't mean it goes on forever, and we're not claiming that. As data changes, we have to update our view. But the most likely scenario for BLDR, an outperforming stock tomorrow, is that it's going to be outperforming. And if it's outperforming tomorrow, the most likely scenario the next day is it's going to be outperforming. It's just math. I know somebody out there is saying, don't I want to buy low and sell high? Aren't I buying high here? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And stocks that are outperforming, look, still probably going to outperform tomorrow. We'll talk about the ability to buy low. I do see a question from Lee here about pullbacks. We're going to talk about that in detail in a little bit, I promise. These two factors are your two most important, folks. Relative strength and the power gauge rating are your two most important. Mark Chaikin likes to call them the dynamic duo of Chaikin Analytics, the Batman and Robin. When these two factors are both green for at least a month or two, gives us by far our highest probability that this stock will outperform in the months ahead. Weight of the evidence skewing the odds in our favor. These two items are hugely important, and it helps skew the odds in our favor so that we are likely to outperform. Now, all of these things on the checklist are important. We don't want to ignore any of them, but these two above all else. It's why they are listed first. Any questions about any of that? why momentum works and why outperformers outperform. Think about large institutions. Large institutions need to outperform. That's how they're graded. Only way to outperform is to get into outperforming stocks, groups, ETFs, you name it. Next is industry strength. We've already talked about this. Rising tide lifts all boats, right? You bet. So we see our three that are listed here under strength. I want to get these three to speak the same language, of course. Bullish power gauge stocks that are outperforming the market in strong groups. You bet. Let's talk about timing here, the next three. Overbought, oversold is a short-term timing indicator only. All about short-term timing. We'll talk about that on its own. Once we're done kind of going through this, we're going to talk about timing. But money flow and long-term trend are less about short-term timing and more about, what does the technical picture look like? Is it right to get into this stock soon, now, et cetera? So let's talk about these. I want to talk about money flow persistency, and I'm going to close this so we can see it clearly. I want you to notice it says money flow persistency on the checklist. Again, let me show you. Money flow persistency. It doesn't just say Chaikin money flow, and there's a reason for that. Now, you might know us because of money flow. Mark created Chaikin money flow back in the early 80s. It's been the industry standard on understanding net accumulation and distribution by very large institutions by this proxy measure ever since then. Our big institutions buying or selling this stock over a period of time. Right? That's what it's telling us. And you'll notice again that the checklist says money flow persistency, because how do we read money flow? We read it over a period of time. Are they buying or selling this over time? Don't get caught up and focus too much on what today's value is or tomorrow's value is or yesterday's value. It's the pattern of it that matters. What does the money flow look like over the last month, over the last couple months? Is it green more often than it's red? Is the green more intense than the red? That's what we're looking for. Right? That's strong money flow persistency. I don't care if today's value is less than yesterday's value. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't care if it's higher either. I care that the green is more often and more intense than the red. That's it. BLDR has gone up 150% in the last 11 months. Is money flow always green? It's not. Institutions sell sometimes. Sometimes they need to rebalance their portfolios. Sometimes they need to just take some profits. Not necessarily bearish for the stock. It would probably be bearish if it persisted. Look for the pattern of money flow persistency. Now, we want to make sure that money flow kind of moves with stock price, and we can make sure that we don't have a money flow divergence, which would mean money flow and the price of a stock tend to work in tandem. When institutions are selling, it tends to mean that the stock price goes down, right? If you see intense red money flow and the price continues to go higher, up, 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 at that time, that might be a concern, but otherwise, not too concerned about it. If you are a conservative investor, you probably don't want to enter into a trade or investment unless money flow is green today. Sandy Chaikin is that way. I'm more aggressive. Sometimes the pullbacks I might be looking for my entry might come with a little bit of negative money flow. I'm okay with that. This checklist is very conservative. If it's not green money flow today, it's not going to show you strong here. It would show you neutral, even if it was persistent. Some of us might be a little different there, right? A little risk versus reward opportunity. So you have to think about how it works for you. But it's by and large looking at the pattern of it that we care about. What's next? Long-term trend. Yeah, we have a long-term trend line. Of course we do. This is a 200-day double exponential moving average, folks. Long-term trend line, gold, orange, brown. I don't know what color. That looks very different on everybody's monitor. Here's the key. We care about being in a strong bullish uptrend. We want a stock that's above a rising long-term trend line. Of course we do. Strong technical picture. The case here of BLDR, it's been above a rising long-term trend line going back, I don't know, really to January. That's great. We want a stock that's been above a rising long-term trend line for a month or two, primarily. A breakdown of that long-term trend line, it's not great. Higher highs, higher lows, that's what we're looking for. Do you see the different evidential pieces here, the different data points that we just put together to recognize a strong or weak stock? We want to put all of these data points together, folks, to determine if it's the kind of stock we want to own. We want to use our 20-factor model, the power gauge rating. We want to look to make sure that the market likes it, that it's already outperforming the market. We want to make sure it's in a strong industry group. We want to make sure institutions have been buying it up, accumulating it over time. We want to make sure it's in a good bullish technical uptrend. When we can check all 5 of these boxes off, we've just skewed the odds into our favor. We just gave ourselves a higher probability of success for our trade. No one knows for sure what's going to happen. But when we do this time after time and stick with a process like this, we're going to be right more often than we're going to be wrong. Do we see it? Do we see how it works? See how we want to use everything and how the checklist takes us through it, all the data points? Let's go take a look at another stock. What about AN here? Is this the sort of stock, like we can all agree, BLDR is the sort of stock we'd want to own in our portfolio, right? What about AN? Does this also check all those boxes? What do you think? By just quickly glancing at this chart. Somebody want to click that Q&A button, hit a Y or hit an N? Yes, you want to own. It's the sort of stock you'd want to own. No, it's not the kind of stock you'd want to own. Let me know. What do you think? Anybody in Q&A? Anybody with any thoughts about AN here? All right, Michael, yeah? Michael says, yeah. Says he wouldn't buy here. We'll get into some timing in a second. Absolutely. Looks good. Let's look at it. What about the power gauge rating? Been bullish for a number of months. Terrific. Relative strength? You bet. Look how long it's been outperforming for. That's great. There's your dynamic duo. How about money flow? That looks positive and persistent to me. Great. Yes, as Lee says, the money flow is neutral right now, I guess. That's because it's not very green, but this, look at the persistency of it. Looks great. Above a rising long-term trend line? You bet. How about a strong industry group? You bet. This looks good. And if we click our checklist, we're going to see it's green up and down. Money flow, persistency is neutral because it's not green here today. We talked about that, right? Money flow is faded to flat right now. So it says it's a neutral. We wanted to be conservative here when we created the checklist. Absolutely, AN is the sort of stock I'd be interested in owning in my portfolio. TDY, you bet, more the same, right? And again, if we click the checklist, same thing. Money flow's flat right now. So we got yellow on there, green everywhere else. Looking good, right? What about ARR? It's a bullish stock, right? What do you folks think about this? Is ARR the sort of stock we want to own in our portfolio? See Lee here. Yeah, you bet. Michael, nope. Absolutely not. Look, yes, it's been bullish here for, let's say, a month and a half. We'll give it a check, right? How about relative strength? Oh my goodness, that's a big time no. Not getting our dynamic duo, are we? Yeah, money flow's green a little bit right now. Look at this though. That's negative persistent money flow. Okay, we're above a falling long-term trend line. Okay, give it like a neutral. What about our industry group? Nope. And the checklist helps us with that. Does that checklist look anything like the checklist for BLDR, AN, or TDY? It does not. Only thing that's green on it's the power gauge rating. We're looking for green up and down, and we are not getting it. Yeah, Lee, absolutely. REITs, bond proxies are out of favor right now. Yields are rising. What do you do when you find a stock like this? And certainly I understand, Lee, why you'd want to exit something like this. But if you find something like this, what do you do? Do you short it? Do you buy it? No, you do nothing. We have mixed information. You are allowed to walk away from something. You don't have to take action on every stock you come across, right? Excuse me, sorry about that. One of the best, most important bits of advice I can give you folks is that when you see mixed data, you're looking here in Chaikin Analytics or primarily anywhere, And you see mixed information when you see signals that say you should buy it, signals that say you shouldn't, signals that say you should short it. That probably means you shouldn't be taking action on it. We can walk away from stocks like this. You don't buy them, you don't short them. I'm not shorting a bullish stock, certainly not buying a stock that looks like this either. Great, don't. That's it, don't. We see how the checklist works, how our charts work, how we're combining our 20-factor model with other evidence. When it all speaks the same language, that's our go signal. When it all lines up. The more that lines up, the higher the probability you have for success. Now, we haven't talked about timing in the short term, like entries, exits, swing trading, those sort of things yet. I'd like to talk about it sort of separately. We are lucky that, as we all know, timing's very hard. Every time we talk to members, they always tell us timing's the hardest thing. Mark Chaikin's created a timing indicator called overbought, oversold. Let me be clear, this is not an RSI. I know RSIs use overbought, oversold language. This is not an RSI. We do not use it like an RSI. It's not about strength of the trend. It is about finding short-term lows and short-term highs. Overbought, oversold exists only here in Chaikin Analytics. And what this does is it says within the prevalent trend, so BLDR, bullish uptrend, right? Within that bullish uptrend, when are we likely at short-term low price points and when are we likely at short-term high price points? That's what it is about. We enter into our bullish trades in outperforming bullish stocks, clicking all those check boxes, right? When those stocks become oversold and have pullbacks. We exit when they become overbought and rally. Take a quick look. I'm going to do a little bit of drawing here. We can do it here too, though this is a little weird because of earnings, so maybe I'll delete that one. All right. When we are in an oversold price condition, meaning down here below the dotted 30 line, we are generally at a short-term low price point. And when we move back up above the dotted 70 line, we are overbought. And guess what? Generally at a short-term high price point. And we see this cycle. Why do they call it swing trading? Because you get these sort of swings in stocks, right? Even as a stock like BLDR goes up, up, up 150% in 11 months, it didn't go straight up. It went up and it swung back down, and it swings up and it swings down. It just swings down less than it swings up. So you see short-term lows continuously reappear when it becomes oversold. Overbought again, short-term high. Oversold, guess what? A short-term low. Overbought, a short-term high. And then we get oversold again and we hit a short-term low, and then we're overbought and we hit another short-term high, and so on and so forth. My hand is tired. You can see the pattern, right? You can see it repeat over and over again here. We want to enter into our bullish trades in these stocks that click all of our green checkmark boxes, right? Bullish stocks, outperforming the market, strong group, bullish uptrend, money flow persistency, institutions buying it up, when they have pullbacks and become oversold. Buy low, sell high, you bet. Of course you want to buy low, sell high. But how do you buy low and sell high and balance out risk versus reward in a smart way? You look for outperforming stocks that are bullish, et cetera, and you look for those oversold conditions when they have pullbacks. We're not looking for stocks that are falling, falling, falling at the bottom. We're not looking at stocks like ARR like we looked at before. How do you know when the bottom is? That underperforming stock is likely to continue to underperform. How many of you held Macy's until it lost 50% of its value? 100, whatever, 70% of its value. Well, it can't keep going down. Sure it can. It's trying to catch a falling knife. Good luck. Your risk far outweighs your reward. However, if you look for stocks that have been outperforming for at least a month or two, check off these green boxes and look for pullbacks when they become oversold. You're getting it in a low and you can still sell at a high. So for example, we want to try to get in as close as we can to the bottom of the valley. I like to think of this as valleys and mountains, overbought, oversold, right? The bottom of the valley, right here in July, the closest we can get to the bottom of that valley right as the line starts to turn its way back up, that would be our preference on when to enter. Are you going to get it perfect? Of course not. Is overbought, oversold going to time the market 100% perfectly? No, nobody can. That's impossible. However, what we can do is get very, very close. Very close. And this does it. And so we enter into our trades, like in BLDR, it would have been nice to enter right here at this pullback in the middle of July when we hit oversold. We buy it, we ride it up to the top of the mountain. When it becomes overbought, when it starts to turn over at the top of the mountain and come down the other side of the mountain, that's when we exit. And guess what? We got another pullback again. Look, right? Nice pullback again. Did this rise quite as quickly, quite as fast? No. Still did. Still a 10% move, right? And then guess what? It was another pullback recently. Then we can see we began to pull back again here. And as we were on our way back down, earnings happened, and we know, crazy things can happen then. So the pattern didn't quite follow. Do you see it? See where we enter and see where we'd like to exit? Now look, this is for shorter term timing, for swing trading. If you're a longer term investor, you don't need to exit, of course. Did we need to exit BLDR right here if we were bought this for the longer term? No way. It still looked great. Just hang on to it. But if you entered for a short-term swing trade, an options trade, whatever it is, then this is when we'd want to get out. If you are a shorter term trader, especially an options trader, you must pay attention to overbought, oversold. Absolutely. If you do not get in oversold conditions on your swing trades, you're in for some pain. For you longer term investors, it's not quite as important. A couple percentage points might not matter that much to you over a couple years, right? Do we still want to get in at a low and out at a high? Sure. So you can still pay attention. Maybe you're just not as particular about it. I'm a long-term investor. I want to make sure I don't buy the stock when it's overbought, but it's between overbought and oversold right now. I feel okay about entering. Sure, okay. But for you shorter-term traders, we must pay attention. Absolutely must pay attention, right? Does this make sense? Patterns aren't always as obvious. Sometimes they're different sizes. I mean, like look at AN here, right? Still very much the same. This had some earnings involved too. It's a little wonky in comparison, but okay. Oversold, oversold, ride it. Oops, terrible arrow, but ride it up to overbought. Pull back, ride it up. So see it? Like, does anyone have any questions about this? We know timing can be hard. We see how we want to use it and enter. It's not an RSI. We want to enter into our bullish trades when we are oversold. That is what we want to do. I know that's not typically how we'd use an RSI. Again, they're not the same. Now, we also have a short-term trend line on this chart, folks. It's the middle white dotted line. This is a 21-day EMA, exponential moving average. It's surrounded by Chaikin volatility bands. These are proprietary calculations of marks, but they're similar to Keltner channels if you're familiar with those. They give us our price movement channel. We expect to find support at the lower band, resistance at the upper band. We expect often the short-term trend line to act as a short-term support and resistance point, right? So when we talk about buying pullbacks here, you'll hear us talk about this a lot at Chaikin Analytics. Buy the dips, buy pullbacks. You might even hear the phrase buy on weakness. Buy on weakness, buy the dips. All of these things mean the same thing. It never means buy Macy's. It never means buy ARR as the thing drops 30% over 6 months. That's not what it's saying. It means look for these stocks like BLDR and look for them in oversold conditions when they pull back a little bit. When they pull back a little bit. When they pull back a little bit. When they pull back a little bit, right? We can use the short-term trend line in these volatility bands as a bit of a guide. I don't like to enter my trades unless we get back to near the short-term trend line. That's how I recognize a nice little pullback that gives me likely room to run. Stocks riding the upper band like this, not particularly usual. It does happen on occasion for sure, but it's not what I'm always looking for, what my expectation would be. Does that make sense? Look for pullbacks. Yes, we want stocks that are already outperforming. We want them at a short-term low in what is already a strong bullish uptrend. That's our weight of the evidence approach. That's how we balance risk versus reward and skew the odds in our favor. Let me know if anyone has any questions about that as we move on today. It's one thing to point out. If you want to do bearish trades, just do literally the opposite. Instead of looking for green, you want to look for red. Instead of entering oversold, you want to enter overbought, right? Does Marathon look like a terrific weak stock? I mean, here's your dynamic duo looking terrific for a number of months. A little bit of recent strength here, more than just a quick fleck here for money flow. By and large, good, great, little concern, but not really. We're below a falling long-term trend line. We're in a weak industry group. I mean, it looks good, right? It looks good on the short side for those comfortable with shorting. Now, we are currently oversold. This is when we enter bullish trades. It is not when we enter bearish trades. We want to enter our bearish trades when we're overbought. Ride that baby down, right? It's the opposite. Look for literally the opposite. Do we understand how to recognize a strong stock now? What does it look like on the chart? How does the power gauge rating work? And how does everything work together? We know how to recognize a strong stock, a weak stock, and ones that we just want to walk away from. I hope so. It might take time to get more and more comfortable with this. That's why this is recorded, folks. Again, I'll show you where to find the recording at the end here today, but hopefully this answers most of your questions and helps you really understand how it works. All right. Lee, I hope that helps. How do you figure out pullbacks? Where to enter? I hope that exactly answered your question. All right. There are two other kinds of power gauge ratings that are different than all of these other ones I do want to briefly mention to you. They don't come from quite the same place. They are neutral plus and neutral minus. We can see DTE here as a neutral plus stock. What does neutral plus mean? It actually means that the power gauge categories and factors here tells us this is a bullish rated stock. That's a terrible B. This stock should be bullish rated, but it is trading below the long-term trend line. And when a stock crosses below the long-term trend line and has this sort of technical breakdown, we can't call it bullish anymore. Absolutely not. Not after this technical breakdown. So we clip it. We clip it down with our what we call our technical overlay, and we make it neutral plus, meaning positive potential, strong fundamentally under the hood of that company, but it's got a technical breakdown here. Can you invest or trade in neutral plus stocks on the bullish side? Sure you can. But you still want to make sure you're checking all of your boxes. Otherwise, right, you're losing the benefit of that technical situation. So DTE here, no, it's got negative relative strength and it's got a month, a couple weeks worth of negative money flow, right? No, I'm not happy about this. Now, if this started to outperform the market again and money flow got better and it was still down there in the 125, 127 range, might I look at it and say, yeah, look at this. This is a stock that the market didn't like for a while. It's been beaten down. Now it's recovering. I love the idea of getting back into this. Might have some real upside for a little bit of extra risk. That's not for everyone. If you're more conservative, of course, don't trade neutral plus stocks. Put them in a watch list and keep your eye on it for when the time comes that it's right to enter, if it ever happens. Neutral minus is exactly the opposite, folks. It's a stock that should be bearish, but I mean, it's kind of outperforming the market, up above a rising long-term trend line. You know, when you're above a rising long-term trend line, these are not great examples of it. We can't call it bearish. It's a really strong technical trend, so it's neutral minus negative potential. By the way, what do you do with a stock like BLDR here, for example? Right? Looks great, right? But the timing's all wrong. It's overbought. It's up at the upper band. Can always create a watch list, folks. Put stocks you like that the timing's all wrong in a list called watch. You can keep your eye on it that way. Really good best practice. I want to spend the rest of our time together here today really kind of running around the platform a little bit, showing you what it can do and how it can work. Now that we understand how to read about our stocks, understand strength or weakness, or if it makes sense to get into them or not. There are a number of ways to generate ideas in Chaikin Analytics. We've talked about our discovery engine already. We have an ETF comparison tool, but by far my favorite way is using the screener. This looks intimidating. It doesn't have to be. You only need to fill out a couple things to get a good set of results. But more importantly, we've made it easy. Here under Manage Save Screens, the white icon, the folder, you'll see save screens if you have any, but even if you're just getting started today, there will be starter screens. There will be starter screens. These are pre-saved screens from us here at Chaikin Analytics for you to use. They are starting points. The idea is that you can play with them. You can mess around with them, see how it changes your results by changing some criteria, right? But if you just wanted to use these screens as they are already written, you certainly can. Like our bull swing trade screen, which is by far my favorite. A Russell 3000 starting universe, bullish or better ratings. Notice we're able to look for stocks that are oversold with money flow that has 3-month high persistency, very strong relative strength, a minimum price of $10, and a beta between 1 and 2, talking about swing trading things, want things to move a little bit. And if we get results today, right away, you get 11 stocks, just like that. Just takes you a click or two. You get 11 stocks that are already going to fit this criteria. Now you can go analyze the charts like we did for BLDR, AN, ARR, etc. Yeah, SWKS, bam, appeared right on it. You'll notice as you see stocks of the day from Dan Russo, from Mark Chaikin, many of these will show up on this screen or a screen that is similar to it. There's bearish ones in there, etc. Best way to find ideas is using the screener. We make it easy to get started. Click View in Workspace or save the results, and you can bring it right back in. Yeah, Lee, absolutely. So Lee suggests that if he wants to enter a position that's overbought, sometimes he'll look to see if a near-term put at the strike he wants is available. Yeah, absolutely. That's the strategies you can talk to Josh, our head of option strategies, about on option sessions. Certainly ways you can do that. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Other ways you might be able to find ideas are through the lists already provided in Chaikin Analytics, our industry groups, indices, US equity ETFs, and Chaikin hot lists right here. Every stock is part of an industry group. You can click on it, and you can click on any industry group and see all the stocks within them. They are in order of the power bar ratio. Those with more bulls versus less bears are at the top. Those with more bears and less bulls are at the bottom. Beverages, gas utilities, energy, personal products, tobacco. These are our weak industry groups based on our power gauge rating for the individual stocks. Thrifts and mortgage, finance industry, household durables, diversified financial, etc. These are our strongest ones. You will notice that we have our indices, and you'll see this little list icon here that lets you load ETFs in watch lists. All of our indices are shown based on their proxy ETFs. And guess what? We have ETF power gauge ratings. You can look at the charts. You can analyze the charts for all of the different ETFs. How does the NASDAQ look? It looks absolutely terrific, folks. You can see it right here on the chart. Same thing for ETFs themselves, right? Look, you want to look at the different sectors of the market. Which parts of the market look to be strong moving forward? Well, take a look at the sector ETFs, look at the power gauge ratings, look at the charts. XLF looks great. Financials, XLK technology looks absolutely terrific. XLV healthcare looks like it's improving. Not quite there yet, right? We see it? Discretionary becoming weak here. Real estate becoming weak here. We see the changes. You can see it right on the chart. You can do it for the subsectors as well. These are my favorite, sometimes called industry ETFs. Take a look. We do this all the time. We talk about the different groups, which parts of the market are stronger as we look to take a top-down approach here at Chaikin Analytics. What's the strongest parts of the market before finding the strongest stocks within them? And maybe you'll look here and say, I like the big banks. What stocks are in this big bank ETF? You can click the ticker right here and it'll load all the holdings inside this ETF, the KBE. Here you go. You can see 50 bulls and only one bear inside the KBE, by the way. And now you can scroll through the list and look at all the individual stocks inside that large bank ETF group. You can do the same thing, by the way, large cap growth ETFs, small cap value ETFs, you name it. We also have Chaikin hot lists, and these are lists we curate. Lists including all of our bullish and all of our bearish stocks, stocks that turn bullish or bearish this week, stocks with upcoming earnings or earnings estimate revisions. There's all sorts of stuff in here, basically including ETF hot lists, by the way. Just hover your mouse over the name of a list. It tells you when it was last updated. Many update on a daily basis. It also gives you a little more information about exactly what it's looking to capture. Just click on the list and scroll through it to see which stocks or ETFs might make sense for you. Here are some sector ETF leaders. There's all sorts of things that you can find. Lots of ways to find ideas, get comfortable with whichever way works for you. But the screener, probably the best way to get started, and we make it easy with those starter screens, so hop right in. Now, this area that we've been working in, that we see all of this information, the big chart, et cetera, this is called our workspace. If you're in the screener, discovery, ETF comparison, click workspace at the top to get back here. But there are three views in the workspace when we're looking at the lists of our stocks. We've been in our watch list view. What's the next one? It's the panel view. The panel view shows us all the stocks in our list in order of percentage price change. This is not power gauge rating order, although you can see the power gauge rating. We can see stocks in green boxes are up for the day, red boxes are down for the day. The rare occasion, we have one in a white box, which amazingly we have two right now. They are flat for the day. The order of these will update every 80 seconds as our stock prices update every 80 seconds. This is where you go to see who your winners and who your losers are, who's lagging, who's outperforming for you today. And on every one of these screens I'm going to show you, folks, every single list, every list you can click has access to a panel view. So yeah, any of your user lists, but if you want to see what's going on inside transportation infrastructure today, here you go, go for it. You want to see what's going on inside the NASDAQ today, by all means, go for it. Click on any list and it'll filter over here for you. Easy. What's the next one? The bell with a number in it is our alert view. And of course, this alerts us to important things happening to the stocks in our portfolio. It's four parts. The bottom, both left and right, are other alerts, bullish and bearish. We'll talk about those in a second. I want to talk about this view here first by talking about buy and sell signals. It's very important that we understand what buy and sell signals are and what they are not. They are not calls to action. We do not buy or sell something just because it gets a signal. This does not override all of the other research we've talked about doing here on BLDR, on ARR, on AN, on TDY, right? Those conversations we spent a long time on. These signals do not override that. These signals are calls to attention or confirmations. They could be the reason that you notice a stock, you see that MTB is an oversold buy today and say, hey, that's great. I'm now going to go analyze MTB's chart with the checklist and all of that data and see if it is strong and is the sort of stock I would want to own in my portfolio. It doesn't mean I ignore all that just because it has a sell signal. It could also mean that after I've already done all of my research on MTB and I really like it and I'm thinking of buying it, and now I see it as a buy signal, that's just extra confirmation that boom, yes, it is a good time to buy it, right? If you think of them, if you think of your research like a sandwich, these signals can be your first piece of bread you lay down. It could be the last piece of bread you add on the top, but it is never the meat and cheese of your research. Never, ever, ever. That is what the charts, the power gauge rating, the checklist is all about. There are 6 different pairs of buy and sell signals, and these are all about entries. So if you notice HSY has a sell signal today, that is not designed to get you out of a winning bullish long trade in HSY. It is designed to possibly help you find a new bearish trade in HSY. So if you own shares, your long shares, or some other bullish trade in HSY, and you see a sell signal, that is most certainly an important call to attention, and you should go take a closer look at that chart and see if it makes sense to plot your exit. But it is not designed to get you out of a winning trade at the top. I just want to make that clear. That can be confusing at times. These are all about entries. You can find out about the different buy and sell signals and how they are calculated in our user guide, which can be found under this books icon. It's our product resources icon. If you click product resources, you'll see user guide right here. The user guide is missing most of its photos as we shifted to a different website and have to rebuild this on a different way. It's complicated. We apologize. In the meantime, those signals and alerts here does have all of that information. Click signals right here. This is the calcs, folks. We're not hiding them from you. This is the calculations. Certainly, I enjoy oversold buy signals. Great for helping me find good swing trade opportunities. But notice something. That's the calculations, 3 items that makes the oversold buy. We've already talked about how important relative strength is, right? We know that money flow is important as well. Do you notice relative strength or money flow in that calculation for oversold buys? It's not included. In no way does this oversold buy signal override the rest of that research. It helps you with it. It's part of it. It could be an extra cherry on top of your sundae. But again, it's not the ice cream in your bowl. I'm just full of food metaphors today. Are you hungry? I want some ice cream right now. Anyway, I digress. You can see everything right here, and the sell signals are literally the opposite, just the exact opposite. Oversold buy signals, overbought sells are primarily the only ones I pay much attention to. I think they trigger a little early the moment a stock hits oversold, not at the bottom of the valley, but they can be useful in finding some ideas for sure. Other alerts come in 3 flavors down at the bottom. Today, we only see power gauge alerts. Yeah, if the power gauge rating changes for a stock, turns bullish or turns bearish, we're going to let you know. That obviously seems pretty important. The 2 other types of alerts are earnings related. If Wall Street analysts' average estimates for stocks' upcoming earnings are revised, we're going to let you know. If they revise up, bullish. If they revise down, it's bearish on the alert side, left versus right. We'll also let you know when stocks report earnings. An earnings surprise, we call it. Did they beat Wall Street analyst estimates? Did they miss Wall Street analyst estimates? Making sure you're constantly aware of what's going on with regards to earnings. Everything stays on this view for 2 days. You can see we have alerts, buy signals, for example, for Anthem from yesterday and MTB here from today. If you were to log in and look at this exact same list tomorrow, Anthem wouldn't be here anymore. But MTB would, and any new signals for trading tomorrow would be here as well. These do not update intraday, only our price does, remember? So these are all based on closing data the previous day. Your signals are your signals all day long. Your signals are your signals all day long. And by the way, every list has an alert view. So certainly you can look at buy and sell signals and alerts for the stocks in your lists. But if you wanted to see the buy and sell signals for all the stocks in the paper and forest products group, you can. You do have a buy signal on one of them today. If you wanted to see all the buy and sell signals today in the S&P 500, bam, here you go. There's a lot today. If you wanted to see all the buy and sell signals inside the, the aerospace subsector, here you go. By all means, go right ahead. You can click whatever you want here, and it'll filter right into this screen. Easy peasy, right? By the way, if something has a buy or sell signal today, you will not miss it on your chart. Take a look. You can see the oversold buy right on the chart. Very, very clear if it has one today. As a matter of fact, folks, you can have this information emailed to you automatically every morning. You can wake up before you even log in Chaikin Analytics. You can have some data. We can run one of these screens for you and automatically send you the results every morning, we can send you alerts and signals as well every morning. And we can set that up together right now today. How do we do it? Well, you click Manage Stock Alert Emails, of course, here in the top right corner. When you click Manage Stock Alert Emails, this box will appear. If you want to receive the automatic screen, click Screener Alerts to on. If you want to receive buy and sell signals for one of your user lists, click User List to on. And if you'd like to receive buy and sell signals and alerts for an index, click Market Alerts to on. You're then going to click Next. From here on this screen, you will pick which of these screens you would like automatically run for you and emailed to you in the morning. If you have saved screens, you can click Select from those. If you don't, that's okay. You can select from the starter screens. And I created the Bull Swing Trade starter screen with our Chief Market Strategist, Dan Russo. We've done some back testing on it. It creates a great universe. I like it. That's still the one that I focus on. And I click Next. From here on this dropdown, you will pick which user list you want to have alerts and signals sent to you on. I pick my stocks. You might pick something different. A handful are automatically selected, but you can change them. You know, select all, deselect all, pick and choose. Totally up to you what you want to get, and click Next. We're now going to do the exact same thing with an index. Pick whichever one you want. I picked S&P 500 and click Next. Please make sure you click Save on this last screen. If you don't click Save, you are not going to get an email tomorrow. I can't say that more explicitly. You must click Save here for it to save. If you do, just after 8:30 Eastern time tomorrow morning, you will get your first email. If you do not receive it at your user ID email address first thing tomorrow morning, please check in your spam or junk folder. They do often make it there, but it's that simple, folks. And if you ever want to change what you're receiving or what the screen is, etc., you can just hop right back in, go to the end and click Save, and it will update for the following day. Anyone with any questions about that, click that Q&A and let me know. One more thing I want to show you about ways you can view your stocks before we talk about next steps, ways you can learn and engage beyond this. And that is the Portfolio Health Check right here at the top. The Portfolio Health Check is a consolidated 2-page report created every Sunday. You can see the week of November 17th. It primarily updates you on what happened in your portfolio last week. You can see the number of our power bar, the number percentage-wise of bullish stocks. The S&P was up 0.92% last week. Our portfolio was up 1 basis point less. We can see the top performers and the biggest laggers last week. We can see stocks that had power gauge rating changes last week, earnings surprises, stocks that beat their estimates, estimate revisions for upcoming earnings. And we can see stocks that are about to report earnings this week and what day of the week and what their power gauge rating is. I love this earnings reports this week section during earnings season, especially, which we by and large just ended here recently. We also have our Chaikin power grid here, which is one of my favorite parts of the health check for sure. It allows us to understand how our portfolio is invested in kind of a visual way. And that's just the way most of us understand things a little better anyway, right? So we see our bullish stocks on the right and our bearish stocks on the left. And stocks that are strong in strong industry groups are at the top, and stocks that are in weak industry groups are at the bottom. And that means your strong stocks in strong groups, the ones we prefer to own in our portfolios, are in the top right. And bearish stocks, weak stocks in weak industry groups, ones we would most likely prefer to be shorting, are down here in the bottom left. What do we think about something like Glassworks here, GLW, strong group, weak bearish stock? Well, you know, maybe this helps me realize that I found the right group, but I found the wrong stock. Perhaps I should look at GLW, see if it makes sense to exit it and rotate into a different electronics equipment stock. Yeah. If I had a bullish electronic utility stock, which I don't, you know what, I need to immediately sell it because the group was weak? No, if everything else is strong, green, 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 up and down our checklist, can I hold on to a strong stock in a weak group? Sure you can. Is it exactly what we'd prefer? No. Do I want to watch it closer? Probably, yeah. I'd probably want to watch a stock that fell down there closer than I would watch CDW up there in the electronic equipment group. And if I started to see the charts change to the negative, I might be quicker to get out of that utility, as that group is pretty weak now, right? This brings up a really interesting question we get a lot. I bought a stock 2 weeks ago. Everything's green except it just turned neutral. The power gauge rating's neutral now. Do I need to sell this right away now that it turned neutral? Folks, no, you do not. If everything else on the chart is green, it's looking good, it's outperforming, it's above a rising long-term trend line, the industry group is strong, money flow is great, all that, and the power gauge rating turned neutral? No, you don't need to sell it. Everything else is confirming the strength. Even if the model doesn't have a strong opinion about it right now, everything else is telling you it's good. Keep your eye on it. If things start to deteriorate, you probably want to get out. But yeah, you can totally hang on to that. And sometimes really strong stocks do turn neutral for short periods of time anyway. At the bottom of this report, we do see all of our bullish stocks, neutral stocks, and bearish stocks listed together. They are alphabetized, and we can see percentage price change last week. Lastly, on this report, click right here. This PDF icon will download this report to your computer. It's yours. Print it, share it, save it. Do with it whatever you choose, and of course, good on every single list. You want to see a portfolio health check for the entire S&P 500? Please go right ahead. Do you want to see a portfolio? It'll take a little while. It's got 500 stocks to load on this report. You want to run a portfolio health check on a sector to figure out which parts of the sector are stronger than others, right? You want to look at discretionary here. Retail's looking pretty good in a lot of ways. So discretionary is weak, but there are some strong groups in retail all told, right? There's a lot of things you can glean by clicking around in here. Lee asks, how did you pick the particular bullish swing list? I believe you're asking in the email alerts in here, Chaikin starter screens, bull swing trade, for getting the alert email sent to you. You're welcome, Lee. Good questions. Folks, I'm going to kind of show you some final steps, ways you can engage with us. If you have any questions, send them over before we're finishing up here today. We just got a couple more minutes together. I do want to point out we do have a member content blog right here. If the microphone is glowing red, there's something new under there you haven't read. Maybe you'll want to go back and look at some of the past entries in there. They could be helpful for you. Our chief market strategist, Dan Russo, also creates a weekly video every Friday that gets posted right in there, video update on the current market environment. Back under our product resources icon, you will find the members only sessions page. And I hope you spend the majority of your time here learning from our members only sessions. I hope you spend a lot of time in these. Your client success team spends a lot of time producing them week after week and having discussions with our members. You can see the weekly schedule of events right here. We do this every week. And each one of these sessions has their own section to the page. This is one big page. Just move down, scroll down it. You are on the Onboard, our primary training, the foundation to be laid to your success here. I hope it's been useful for you. You are welcome to join on an Onboard as often as you like. You can reserve a spot for any members only session, but you never need to reserve a spot to join a Chaikin Analytics session, folks. When the Onboard session is live, Wednesdays and Fridays at 2 Eastern time, all you need to do is click the red quick join link right here and it'll take you right in. No need to register, no need to reserve a spot. Click the link, boom, you're in, done. You can join my associate Rob when he gives presentations on Fridays, not quite as much in the charts, a little bit different. My presentation every Wednesday will look much the same, but you're welcome to join me again. If you think it would be beneficial for you, please do. We encourage you to. And you can see just to the right, the most recent recording and an archive of past recordings as well. I'm going to have this recording we're completing together up as soon as possible. If the processing gets done, the video processing, I will have it up by the end of business today, if not first thing tomorrow morning. Spend time with this recording, folks. We covered too much for you to remember all of it. There's just no way. That's okay. We understand that. Watch the recording, spend time with it. Hit pause and spend time doing what I did. And then once you feel comfortable with it, hit play again and hop back through. We're still going to be here. You don't have to rush ahead to these next steps. They're not going anywhere. What are other steps? Our Monday weekly open forum, our most attended session every week. We send an invite to this session, part of the reason why it's the most attended, every Friday and every Monday. We tell you what the session is going to cover because it is always on a different topic. We covered breadth metrics this past Monday. How can we read market breadth and what does it mean to us? Sometimes we have special guests. Sometimes we take deep dives into Chaikin Analytics. Let's talk about money flow. Let's talk about overbought, oversold, and how we use it. We'll get an invite out to you on Friday to join this session again, and you can see what it's about. Now, Dan Russo, our Chief Market Strategist, is on this session every week. Dan gives a little update on the current market environment at the start, then is the presentation, and then it turns into a big Q&A session with Dan Russo and either myself or my associate Josh. If you want to ask questions of Dan Russo, our Chief Market Strategist, this is the best way to do it. Hop on the open forum and you can directly interact with him. Yes, Lee, Dan does present with either myself or with Josh. Mostly Josh on this session. Dan is terrific. Dan is one of the biggest benefits of your membership with us, 100%. Dan also writes the daily commentary you're going to get Monday through Friday. And sometimes he writes the weekend commentary. Most of the time, Mark Chaikin writes the weekend commentary. 6 days a week, commentary. Please make sure you are reading what they have to say. It is a huge part of your membership, and I cannot recommend it enough. You will get it in email each and every morning. And by the way, those previous sessions that we did, they're available to you right here under View Past Recordings. Even if you weren't a member at the time, go check them out. When you're ready. I run a pre-market analysis session Tuesday and Thursday mornings. We take a look at the overall condition of the market from a top-down perspective, really understanding what's going on by reading the commentary from Mark and Dan. What does it mean to us? And then this is a Q&A session with me. We run Thursday afternoon sessions. These are just specific topics. Every Thursday afternoon, well, no, the first, second, and third Thursday of the month, if we're being more specific. The first Thursday of the month, all we do is talk timing for a half hour. The second Thursday of the month, we talk comparing ETFs. And the third Thursday of the month, which by the way is tomorrow, all we do is talk about ways to find ideas, primarily use the screener. Just hop into that by clicking the red quick join link tomorrow at 3 Eastern or check out the recordings. Josh Midland, head of options strategies at Chaikin Analytics, created options training videos here for you. And then Josh runs a twice a week options idea session, 11 a.m. Eastern time. This is putting options trading strategies, Chaikin Analytics options play, the screener, putting it all to work in the real world. Bring your options questions, bring your options ideas. That's what this is all about. And of course, you can see the past recordings here. You'll absolutely love this if you are an options trader or if you want to start getting involved in it. And folks, Norm, great question. Can you join a session already in progress? You bet. Yes, you can. Lastly, and certainly not leastly, contact us, folks. The question mark right here, contact a specialist. I am available. Josh is available. Rob's available. Our team is called Client Success. Our role is to make sure this works for you, that you have what you need, that you find success. You want to read a chart together? Great. We can do that. You want to know where to find certain training? Great. Give us a call. Shoot us an email, a message right through here. There's a process you don't understand. You can't figure out how to get something to work. Whatever it is, reach out. Do not be a stranger. It says it right on my number 5 next steps in the outline. Do not be a stranger. We do not come at any extra cost. Please use us. Please let us help. We want to. We want this to work for you, and we know it can. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. We're here with you along the way. Make sure you reach out. Make sure that you get your stocks into Chaikin Analytics if you haven't done so already. Please do that and let us know how we can help you. Lee, I appreciate it. You're saying we're the real deal. Look, we know there's some garbage out there. We know that we don't have every answer all the time. What we do have is data. It's going to give us a leg up, and we're going to help you with every step of the way with the process. Don't hesitate to reach out. Okay, folks, join in our sessions, and I'll get this recording up for you as soon as possible. You're welcome, Michael, Lee, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being members. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy trading, everyone. Looking forward to working with you.